her face doesn't move. Your pain, met with silence or worse, indifference. And still you lie to yourself. You think if you love her harder, she'll come back. But she already left. And you're the only one pretending she didn't. If that hit, comment, "I reclaim my power." Number 1. She stops caring about you. You feel it long before you can describe it. Her energy shifts. And even though she still sleeps beside you, it's like sharing a bed with a stranger. Her laughter doesn't include you anymore. Her eyes don't light up when you enter the room. And when you speak, she hears the noise, not the meaning. It's not that she's angry, it's that she's detached. And the scariest part is that she no longer even tries to pretend she's interested because she doesn't have to. She knows you won't leave. She knows you'll keep trying, keep hoping, keep tolerating. And so she slowly withdraws her attention, her curiosity, her care. And what hurts most isn't the absence of grand affection, but the death of the small things. The "how was your day?" the random hug from behind, the soft tone when you're stressed. All replaced by emotional neutrality so cold it starts to convince you that maybe you're the problem, maybe you're too needy, too emotional, too demanding. Maybe you just need to man up and stop asking for so much. But that's the lie that keeps you chained. The truth is, she's lost the desire to care because she no longer sees value in what you offer, not because you've lost value, but because she's stopped recognizing it. She's tuned out of your world and tuned into hers, and you keep hoping she'll come back. But love doesn't function like that. Love isn't CPR. It doesn't restart just because you're desperate. And that's where most men stay stuck, thinking they can earn back attention that should have been sacred from the start. And the moment you notice she no longer asks how you're doing, no longer notices your silence, no longer checks in on your needs, you're in a one-sided illusion disguised as a relationship. And no matter how loyal you stay to the memory of how things used to be, you're staying loyal to something that's already dead. And what you must understand is that when care dies, the foundation is gone. The moment your pain becomes inconvenient instead of a shared burden, the connection is fractured beyond repair. And in this space of rejection, most men react by trying harder, buying gifts, being nicer, over-explaining, hoping that if they just show her how good they are, she'll remember. But this is emotional slavery, not strategy, because the more effort you pour into someone who's already disconnected, the more they devalue you. And not because they're evil, but because humans subconsciously respect what's scarce, not what's desperate. So if you're always available, always bending, always patient, she won't wake up one day grateful. She'll just believe this is the new standard, that she can neglect you and you'll stay. And this is why Stoicism is crucial here, not as an aesthetic, but as a survival mindset. To respond with clarity instead of emotion, to observe what is, not what you wish it was, to stop justifying neglect with excuses like "she's busy" or "she's tired," and see clearly that care doesn't vanish because of work or stress. It vanishes when emotional investment dies. And what do you do when that happens? You stop pleading, you stop analyzing her tone, you stop chasing affection like a starving dog, and you start facing your reflection, asking yourself why you tolerated emotional malnourishment for this long. You rebuild the parts of your identity that you gave away for the hope of being loved back. You document your goals, your beliefs, your principles, and you commit to showing care to yourself in a way she never could. Because the moment you start doing that, something shifts. Not in her, in you. Your energy recalibrates, your eyes see clearly. And instead of wondering why she doesn't text you back, you're focused on your next rep at the gym, your next business idea, your next step in becoming the man who no longer begs for love, but attracts it effortlessly by living with discipline, integrity, and presence. And maybe she'll notice the shift. Maybe she won't. But by then it won't matter, because your healing no longer depends on her recognition. You've detached from needing her care to validate your worth, and in that detachment is freedom. Not numbness, but power. Not bitterness, but clarity. And once you taste that freedom, you'll look back at all the nights you stared at the ceiling wondering, why doesn't she care anymore? And realize the answer was never hidden. It was always there. And the real question was, why did you keep trying to earn love from someone who made it clear she didn't want to give it? That's exactly why the Stoic relationship blueprint exists. To give you the timeless framework you were never taught, to rebuild your self-worth from the inside out, and to show you how to navigate love, loss, and disconnection without losing yourself again. And it's now available as an audiobook, meaning you can now listen to this life-changing knowledge while taking a walk, hitting the gym, or simply driving to work. The blueprint is yours for life. Once you get it, no one can take it from you. The link is in the comments. Number 2, no effort to fix problems. When she stops caring, problems stop being something to solve and start becoming things she avoids. And it begins slowly. One skipped conversation, one shrugged-off concern, one "not now" that turns into a permanent silence, and you think it's temporary. You tell yourself she's tired or stressed or needs space. But deep down you know this isn't space. This is retreat. This is surrender. This is her checking out of the emotional contract and refusing to take any responsibility for the damage she's leaving behind. And what hurts most isn't the argument. It's the apathy. It's the blank stares when you open up. It's the way she changes the subject every time you bring up how disconnected things feel. And the hard truth most people won't tell you is that when someone is still emotionally invested, they lean into discomfort to protect the relationship, not away from it. They stay up late to solve it. They put in effort not because it's convenient, but because connection matters to them. And when that effort disappears, that's not forgetfulness, that's choice. She chooses to sleep instead of talk. She chooses Netflix instead of honesty. She chooses scrolling over resolution. And yet you stay, convincing yourself that if you just keep the peace, things will go back to how they used to be. But the man who chooses peace over truth ends up living in silence. And you start noticing that the relationship only works when you don't complain, only works when you don't ask for more, only works when you absorb every emotional injury in silence while she pretends nothing's wrong. And that's not a partnership. That's quiet control, and it's disguised in phrases like, "Not everything has to be so deep," and "You're overthinking again." But what's really happening is that you're being gaslit into tolerating detachment as normal. You're being guilted for wanting clarity, blamed for noticing what's broken, and when you try to hold her accountable for her distance, she flips the script, calls you dramatic, coldly tells you she doesn't have the energy to deal with this right now, and you're left wondering if you're asking for too much. But here's the truth. You're not. You're asking for the bare minimum. Respect, emotional honesty, presence, and when even that becomes too much for her to give, you're not in a relationship. You're in emotional captivity, chained to the memory of who she was while being bled dry by who she's become. And the most dangerous part is, the more you try to fix it alone, the more you reinforce her detachment. Because in her mind, if she doesn't have to work to keep you, why bother? And that's where Stoic discipline becomes your only path out. Because instead of reacting with emotion, you observe patterns. Instead of raising your voice, you lower your tolerance. Instead of explaining again, you exit the cycle, and you realize that staying in something broken just to prove your loyalty is self-sabotage, not love. Because real loyalty isn't about how long you stay. It's about whether you're staying with honor, with mutual effort, with dignity, and if the only way for the relationship to survive is for you to suppress your pain and pretend her coldness is love, then what you have is an illusion, and illusions don't heal. They trap you, and you escape not by waiting for her to care again, but by reclaiming the time, the energy, the soul you've wasted trying to drag a dead connection across the finish line. And you stop begging, stop explaining, stop trying to teach her how to treat you like a human being. Because if she can't see the damage she's causing now, she won't care enough to fix it later. And your job isn't to convince her to put in effort. Your job is to put your energy into places where it's reciprocated, to pour your focus into your health, your craft, your discipline, your boundaries. And the man who builds himself without needing her validation is the man she won't recognize anymore, and maybe one day she'll realize what she lost. But by then, the version of you that once begged for resolution will be gone, replaced by a version that walks away from one-sided peace and never returns to the place where he had to lose himself just to keep someone who had already let go. Number 3. Intimacy fades. It starts in ways you don't question at first. A shorter hug, a longer pause before she kisses you back, a hand that used to reach for yours now clenched around her phone, and you dismiss it as stress. You tell yourself it's work, life, hormones, anything but the truth, because the truth is too painful to face. That the warmth that once defined your relationship is now a memory you're trying to relive through someone who's already lost the desire to relive it with you. And you start noticing that her touch feels cold, not in temperature, but in intention. Like she's only doing it because she feels obligated, not because she's driven by any real affection. And what most won't tell you is that intimacy is never just about physical closeness. It's about emotional availability. And when her eyes stop looking into yours, when her body is in the room but her soul isn't, you're no longer in a connection. You're just sharing a space with someone who once wanted you and now merely tolerates you. And that shift eats at you quietly because it's not violent, it's not loud, it's not obvious. It's invisible neglect. And that neglect breaks a man down far worse than rejection, because at least rejection is honest. But this makes you question your worth. You start believing you're not attractive anymore, that maybe you gained a little weight, that maybe you're not exciting like you used to be. And that's the trap. Because the moment you internalize her detachment as your deficiency, she holds all the power, and you begin chasing the ghost of her affection, giving more, being extra sweet, overcompensating, hoping your efforts will spark the flame again. But what you don't see is that effort without attraction leads to resentment, and the more you try to make her feel something she's already turned off inside, the more disgusted she becomes. Not because you're a bad person, but because nothing repels desire like forced affection, and intimacy cannot be negotiated, it cannot be scheduled, it cannot be earned once lost. It either exists through genuine emotional polarity or it doesn't. And when you find yourself in a space where your need for connection feels like a burden to her, where sex becomes a chore or worse, weaponized, withheld as punishment, rationed like a transaction, then you're not in love. You're in a power imbalance, and most men stay in this space hoping that consistency will reignite passion. But consistency in the face of indifference is spiritual suicide. And here's where you need to wake up. Her disinterest in physical intimacy isn't about her being busy, it's about her being emotionally somewhere else. And if she's emotionally absent, her body is just a placeholder. And you're trying to build connection with someone who's mentally exited the relationship but hasn't yet packed her bags. And this is where stoicism saves you, because instead of breaking down trying to figure out why she doesn't want you anymore, you learn to stop basing your identity on her validation. You learn to observe her actions without over-attaching to them, and you begin the slow, quiet internal work of reclaiming your presence, not to win her back, but to remember who you were before you gave your entire self away to someone who now looks at you with indifference. And when you stop begging for intimacy and start becoming intimate with your own growth, mentally, physically, spiritually, you rise from a place of lack to a place of discipline, where your worth is no longer tied to whether she reaches for you at night, Because now you reach for truth, for self-respect, for the version of you who refuses to shrink in the face of rejection. And the longer you stay in a bed where affection has died, the more you convince yourself you're unlovable. But when you finally walk away from the person who stopped choosing you, you discover you've always been lovable. She just stopped seeing it, and that's no longer your problem to solve. Number 4, she acts like you're a burden. There's a shift that's hard to explain but impossible to ignore. When the woman who once lit up when she saw you now exhales in annoyance every time you speak, when your ideas are no longer interesting, your jokes no longer funny, your energy no longer welcome, and the message you start receiving, not through her words but through every action, every sigh, every glance, is simple. You're in the way, and it happens slowly, almost like emotional erosion, one chipped moment at a time, until you find yourself tiptoeing around someone you used to laugh with, asking for permission just to exist comfortably in the same room. And this isn't a phase. This is what happens when someone no longer values your presence, but keeps you around out of comfort, convenience, or control, and you start questioning your entire being, because every time you share something meaningful, she looks bored. Every time you show excitement, she kills it with indifference, and soon, your natural joy begins to shrink. You mute your personality. You dilute your truth. You compress yourself into a smaller version just to avoid being a problem, and the more you hide your real self to keep the peace, the more she loses respect for you, because no one admires the person who abandons their essence just to stay liked. And that's what's happening. You're not being loved, you're being tolerated, barely. And most dangerous of all, she no longer hides her irritation, she weaponizes your vulnerability, mocks your sensitivity, acts cold when you show emotion, and if you dare ask for connection, she hits you with that tired look or passive-aggressive sarcasm. And here's what many won't say out loud. If she treats your presence like a chore, if you always feel like you're interrupting her life instead of being part of it, that's not love. That's slow emotional exile. And no amount of patience or kindness will reverse a perception once you've been internally filed under burden. Because people don't invest in what they resent, and she resents you. Not because of anything specific you did, but because her emotional connection to you has deteriorated. And in her mind, every interaction with you is now an obligation rather than a desire, and you trying harder only deepens the imbalance, because the harder you try to be liked, the more unattractive you become. Not because you're wrong to want connection, but because you're willing to abandon your self-respect just to receive crumbs of emotional validation, and you start internalizing this dynamic as reality, thinking maybe you are too intense, maybe you are too emotional, maybe you're not funny, not charismatic, not successful enough. But what you fail to realize is that the version of you she now rejects is the same version she once pursued. The only thing that changed is her perception, and you let that perception define your identity. But you don't need her approval to be whole again. What you need is discipline, awareness, and a non-negotiable commitment to never again stay where your presence feels heavy to the person who once begged for it. And that's what Stoic strength teaches you. Not to be cold, not to be numb, but to remain grounded in truth, even when it hurts. To recognize when someone's behavior consistently undermines your worth, and to take that behavior as fact, not a puzzle to decode. Because the truth is this: when she acts like you're a burden, you must act like a man who knows he is a gift. And that doesn't mean arrogance, it means boundaries. It means deciding that your emotional energy, your time, your loyalty are valuable. And anyone who makes you feel like they're doing you a favor by tolerating you doesn't deserve access to you. And the way you transform this isn't by fixing her attitude. It's by fixing your standard, because the moment you stop seeking acceptance from someone who looks at you with quiet contempt, the moment you reclaim your power, You rise from dependency into self-respect. And once you operate from that space, her behavior no longer dictates your worth. Her loss becomes a lesson, and your presence becomes something you give selectively, not something you beg to keep. Number 5. She's emotionally detached. There's something uniquely painful about being physically next to someone who has emotionally left you, and it's not loud, not obvious, not something others will even notice, but you feel it in your gut, in your chest, in your entire nervous system, like a silent rejection that never speaks but always speaks, because she no longer meets your gaze with warmth. She no longer laughs with her eyes, no longer shares her inner thoughts or feelings. And when you try to talk about the deeper things, she's distracted, uninterested, absent, and she masks it well with surface-level civility. She's polite, maybe even smiles, but everything about her energy tells you one thing: she's no longer there, and the worst part is, she still does just enough to keep up the illusion of presence, enough to avoid confrontation, enough to avoid guilt, enough to prevent you from calling her out directly, and you begin to question yourself, wondering if you're being paranoid, if maybe you're just overthinking it but you're not. You're sensing the emotional vacuum, the hollowness where intimacy used to live, and now you're stuck in a relationship where you're no longer chosen but you're still convenient. And emotional detachment is the most dangerous form of separation because it doesn't trigger immediate panic. It doesn't push you out. It lulls you into staying while it slowly erodes everything that once made the relationship real. And she no longer talks to you about her fears, her goals, her pain. She now reserves those conversations for others, her friends, her co-workers, sometimes even strangers online, because you are no longer her safe space. And the most painful realization is not that she's stopped loving you, but that she no longer wants to love you. And yet you stay, hoping that consistency and loyalty will reverse a detachment that has already calcified in her. And you begin to overextend, overgive, overcompensate, trying to pull emotional connection from a person who's shut the door and locked it behind her. And this is where men lose themselves, trying to revive a connection with someone who is already emotionally gone, but physically still around. And because she hasn't left physically, you convince yourself that there's still hope, still something to fight for, but she left the moment she stopped being emotionally available, and every day you pretend otherwise. You drain yourself in a space where you're not even seen anymore, and you notice that she talks to you like a roommate, not a partner. She makes plans without consulting you. She shares her real thoughts with others, but not with you. And your presence starts to feel like background noise, like she's living her life around you instead of with you. And in those quiet moments, when you're sitting next to each other but haven't connected in days, something in your soul begins to break. Not because you're weak, but because you're trying to bond with a ghost. And emotional starvation is the most lethal kind, because it doesn't kill you in one blow. It chips away your self-worth in silence until you forget what healthy love even feels like. And here's where you must make a choice. Keep giving your heart to someone who's emotionally unavailable, or finally accept that her presence doesn't equal connection and start showing up for yourself instead. And that starts with facing reality without filters. Accepting that emotional detachment isn't about being mad, it's about being numb. And the moment someone becomes numb to your voice, your needs, your existence, it's no longer your job to wake them up. It's your job to wake yourself up. And that means returning to the habits, routines, and mindsets that strengthen your independence, that reconnect you to your inner authority, that bring your focus back to who you are and what you value. Because no connection is worth losing yourself in. And once you begin living like a person who is enough with or without their validation, your energy changes, your posture shifts, and you stop waiting for them to return emotionally, because now you've left, not out of revenge, but out of respect for yourself. And when you leave emotionally before they do physically, you regain the power to choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and truth over fantasy. And that's where everything transforms. Not because they changed, but because you finally did. If you've made it this far, it's because something deep inside you knows the truth, and you're done pretending. Society will hand you lies dressed as love, shame you for setting boundaries, and distract you with nonsense just to keep you weak, quiet, and confused. But the Stoic relationship blueprint was never made for the masses. It was made for the few who are ready to wake up, take control, and never beg for love again. It's packed with timeless Stoic principles that will change the way you see relationships, yourself, and life forever. And now, it's finally available as an audiobook, so you can absorb this truth while walking, training, or just breathing through your next chapter. The link is in the comments. If you're done wasting years on the wrong people and ready to reclaim every part of who you are, comment, "I choose peace," like this video, and subscribe so more men can find this truth and save themselves from regret.